Happy Monday, loves. I've just come out this morning to do a little bit of work in a cafe, which I have to say was a really good shout because I felt really motivated, which is actually something I've struggled with in the last week or so. I think I've touched on in various vlogs. I've been like having a few struggles with my mental health this month, which is not usually like me. I know a lot of people can get that in January, but I usually love January, but with just various things going on in my personal lives meant that I've struggled a little bit to like feel motivated and focus with work. But yeah, I had a really good hour or so this morning, and it was just a reminder how important it is for me to get out the house, especially if I'm not feeling my best. So yeah, definitely something I'm trying to do at least once a week. I think especially living in a tiny home, getting out and about is so important. And I worked in Tyzo Cafe this morning, which was a nice change. I tend to go to the Costa because I know that the Wi-Fi in Tyzo can be a bit spotty, and it was a bit spotty to be fair, but there was work I could do without access to the internet. And I have to say, actually, sometimes not having the internet works in your favour. You know, I could really focus. I was just writing a Substack post, so I just wrote it in like a Word document and saved it to my desktop, which meant I could like get on with it. And I'd already done a lot of my planning and research. I tend to do that like on a Friday previous, so I can just get into the flow of writing. So I didn't really need the internet, and probably meant that I focused even better. I was writing all about my like low screen life, and it was quite nice to reflect because I think I mentioned this channel, but I write more on my Substack actually about stuff like moving away from social media and my experience of leaving social media, because as much as I'm on YouTube, obviously a lot of people count this as social media, and I'm on Substack, which is like a writing space. If you don't know, if you've not heard of it, I've got a link to my Substack always in my description. It's the main place that I write. It's really the only other place you'll find me on the internet apart from YouTube. I did leave like Instagram and all those other social media apps. It was over 2 years ago now. I think it was 2022, like August 2022 is when I left Instagram. And I've got these habits that I've developed that I don't really think about. They've become like more instinctive. Some of it I got from reading Cal Newport's book Digital Minimalism, which I highly recommend. I read it years ago, but it's still super relevant. It was really good because it includes both science behind, you know, it's not just social media, but a lot of it is focused on social media, the impact it has, and also like advice to how to move away and being just more intentional when it comes to like our digital devices. Yeah, some of these habits I've kept from there, and some I've just sort of tweaked, and some I've thought of myself from really small things like apps I have on my phone to more time-consuming things like switching my hobbies and having more non-digital hobbies in my life. But yeah, it was quite good. It was good to like write it all out and reflect, because I realised that I feel like my life's a lot more fulfilling now that I'm just very, very intentional about how I use my digital devices. So hopefully some people will find it useful. I think especially at this time of year, people are maybe reflecting a bit more on how they want their year to go and spending like less time on the phones, maybe doing more other hobbies like reading and stuff like that is something people are more aware of. So that was really interesting to write. But now I'm going to a bit of a rainy morning today, but I'm going to head out to the supermarket because I need to get food, and then I'm going to get back to the tiny home and have some lunch because I'm getting peckish. So excuse if you can hear a bit of background noise. We've still got our heater on because it's a bit chilly today, but I thought I'd give you guys a quick food haul. Not very exciting, just sort of standard weekly shop. Where should I start? I'll start with the shreddies. I think I show this every time I do a weekly shop, but we eat a lot of shreddies in this household. And then I also stocked up on some oats, so just get the Tesco own ones. Got some flour, plain flour, because I made some banana bread at the weekend and I used all that up. And I also got some more chocolate chips. The dark chocolate chips from Tesco are vegan because I use those as well for my banana bread. Some Mimieux cinnamon. Got some more of that. And then I got Oatleys. I got 2 like normal ones and 2 of the baristas. I had to basically scale the shelves at Tesco because they were right at the back and I'm not very tall, so that was a bit of a challenge to get those. And then I got my favourite tea, which is the Clipper one, and the organic one was on sale, so that was great. I got some snacky bits. I always get some of these Nairn's kind of oatcakes, alternating between the chocolate ones and the fruity ones normally. And then I noticed these were on deal. I've actually not had these in a while. I really like these sort of lemon and blueberry graze bars. Got a bigger bag of lentils. Dairy Esquires. I got the coconut clab. I think they changed their branding, but I think this is the one I normally get. They're one of my favourite vegan yogurts. Some vegan butter, just the standard floral one. Some tofu. And then I got some white vinegar because I run out, and I use this in my make my own cleaning spray with a mix of like white vinegar and water with a little bit of lavender essential oils, so it smells a bit better. Just 1 can of baked beans, some olives, and then didn't need a huge amount of fresh produce, so I just got some cauliflower, some broccoli, some shallots because I thought that would make a nice change from just using onions, asparagus, which I don't get often at this time of year, but I really fancied some. I'm going to make a risotto this week, so that'll be nice. Always get some mushrooms, always get the chestnut ones, and then some loose bits, just a couple of brown onions, 1 red one that I think looks okay. So there wasn't a great selection of red onions this week. And then just like 4 loose carrots, and some naan bread as well. So I'm going to put this all away and then I can have my lunch. I made some lentil soup at the weekend, so I think I'm just going to heat up some more of that to enjoy. So I wanted to catch you guys up on a little bit of my reading because I've not really chatted books for a while, or at least it feels that way. I've got myself all ready to chat books. I've got wearing my book sweater, which I design on my Mimieux as part of my merchandise, and I've also got my favourite book mug, which is what I got from Wigtown, which is Scotland's book town, and I also made myself, well, I made this at the weekend, but I got myself a bit of banana bread. I've already taken a nibble out of, but in close so you can see, it turned out pretty well. There's some chocolate chips in there as well, and you can't really go wrong with banana bread. I'm quite an amateur baker, but that always seems to turn out okay. The first book I wanted to talk about was this one. This is a non-fiction, and it's called The Art of Rest, which is actually a book a friend recommended to me a little while ago. This is a library edition, which explains why it looks a little bit battered, but I found this is quite an interesting read. Essentially, the author is someone that was involved in the rest test, which was this big like questionnaire that these researchers sent out to loads of people to try and understand better how people rest. So people were asked to rank like their favourite ways of resting. So she goes into a bit of the background on rest in general and what that means, particularly in like the modern age and why it's important, and then she goes into the top 10 answers from people. So there's a whole range in here. It ranges from like taking a bath, going on a walk, watching TV, and the most important, or the most popular one actually was reading, which I found quite interesting, especially as I'm now reading a book about rest, so I feel like that must be the most restful thing I can be doing. And I've been enjoying this book. I'd say it's very good as like an overview. It's quite simple, you know, when you look at it you're like, okay, obviously that's a way of resting. So it's not necessarily saying anything new, but it's a really good overview of rest in general, and you know why we should be doing more of it and the ways we can fit more of that into our lives. And I like the balanced approach the author took. So for instance, you know, a lot of people would say watching TV isn't something you should do, it's bad for you, or like it's not very mindful or fulfilling and things like that. And you know, she does say, you know, if you're watching a lot of TV every single day, then maybe that isn't ideal for you, you know, sitting around a lot if nothing else. Generally watching TV can be a really good way of sort of switching off, particularly at the end of the day. A lot of people like to just do something that's a bit more passive and that still has value. So I think she's taken a really good approach to this and thought might be the kind of thing you guys would be interested in as well, because it's kind of stuff we talk about on this channel. So thought I would mention it. And then I mentioned this book, or briefly showed it anyway, in my Sterling vlog, so I thought I'd give you an update because I was pleasantly surprised. It's called The People on Platform 5 by Claire Pooley, if that's how you say her name, who I've never heard of or read any of her work before, but I really enjoyed this. It essentially follows lots of different characters that join the same train on their commute in London, and I would say the main protagonist, although you see it all from these different people's point of view throughout the book, is probably Iona, She's the character you start with. She's a woman in her 50s and she's a little bit kooky, you know, she's kind of known on the train as being a little bit batty. She always has her dog with her that always has his own chair. She brings like a china cup and saucer in a massive handbag to drink her tea out of on the commute. She's just very individual and does things her own way. So she's a really interesting character. I really enjoyed reading about her, and all of the characters, I think it was really well representative because you've got a great range there, and it means that you could touch on lots of different factors. And I think the strength of this book, and probably the message of the book, is it shows that you can't judge a book by its cover. You know, you often see people when you're out and about in places like on trains and stuff, and you get like a split second kind of impression of someone, but that often isn't accurate, or at least not the whole story. And this book was a good example of like explaining that. For instance, one character is a trader, a city trader, and he wears very expensive suits and a watch and things like that. So you think of him in a certain way, and for a while he behaves like that, but when you dig in a little bit more, you see actually he's got a lot of stuff going on in his life and there's a lot more to him. So yeah, I think that the strength of this novel is that rich characterization. I think all of the characters are really believable, and I love how their friendships, you know, these people that for years ignored each other on the train, and for one reason or other end up like talking to each other and getting to know each other a bit more, and it's really nice, really wholesome book. But while I thought it could be edging towards 4.5, maybe even 5 stars, but I think just for me personally, I prefer my books with like a little bit more edge. And I would say this one, although it did touch on lots of different important factors and things like that, because you've got these characters from lots of different backgrounds, it touched on things like race and sexuality, ageism, lots of things like that. It still had a kind of wholesome, happy ending type feel to it, which I really enjoy, but for some reason I never quite give 5 stars. And I think the other thing about this is because you got it from all the different perspectives, which I enjoyed, it did mean you maybe couldn't go into the same depth as some of the characters. So I do quite like a first person, like really detailed characterization in my books, and they're the ones I tend to give a 5 star to. But having said all that, I would say it's at least 4 stars, maybe even 4.5. I was no expectations with it, so it was really nice. And I would definitely recommend, especially if you're planning on traveling on a train anytime soon.
Part of your painting as white as possible, so you let the white of the paper shine through.
Watercolour is one of those skills that I would really like to do more of and improve this year, and I really got inspired because my mum gifted me, I can't close it because this is drying currently, this like little notebook. It's like a watercolour pad, and she decorated it. She sells stuff like this on her Etsy store, and I just thought it was a really sweet small size, and I think that makes it feel a lot more achievable. And I was also looking at this book that the author Rosalie kindly sent me sometime last year, and I flicked through it a few times, but I was like properly looking at it the other day and looking at some of the illustrations because it's gorgeous. It's her, she's a nature illustrator and writer, so it dictates, whatever the word is, dictates, I don't know, her journey through the Appalachian Mountains where she lives, and it's got all these beautiful illustrations in it. And what I love most about it is it's called Tiny Worlds, so she's kind of focusing on like the really small things that a lot of time people do miss. And it also reminded me that she has some Skillshare classes on watercolour painting. As you guys know, I love Skillshare. They're my favourite online learning platform, and I'm happy to be working with them again on this video. So over the weekend I spent some time to rewatch some of Rosalie's classes that I've got up here now for reference. I've previously watched her Watercolour Your World class, which focused on painting landscapes, but I thought for this project I would revisit her Watercolour the Woods, which is a beginner's guide to painting the natural world, and it takes you through all the different stages of watercolouring. So if you've never done watercolouring before, I am still definitely very much a beginner, it's really useful for that. It shows you what materials you need, how to take like a good reference photo if you want to take a photo of something we're out and about and come back and paint it, or paint it in the field, how to do like the pencil sketch, how to add ink, how to mix your colours, and then how to like layer it all up and add like the finishing details. Obviously hers turns out a lot better than mine. I'm actually only on the first stage at the moment, so I didn't have a photo on my camera roll, unfortunately, but I did have the idea because when I was looking through here, she had a few moths and I was like, that's quite a nice idea. And I think moths are one of those underrated creatures. I often think that butterflies are the showy ones and moths are meant to be like really brown and drab and stuff, but I don't think that's true. So I picked this guy here, which is a speckled yellow butterfly. It's a UK species, and at first I was like, that looks quite easy, and then I looked at it and realised all the different speckles might take a while to paint. But I've started the process. I've done a slightly wonky pencil sketch, and then I've gone over with one of these fine line pens. I've got a few different sizes, so this is the 0.1. This is like the finest one I've got. And then Rosalie suggests doing quite a light base cover like over the whole thing, and then you can like build up your layers as all the different layers dry. So this is mostly dry now. I think I've done a really light yellow over like all the yellowy bits, and then obviously all the speckles are going to be brown, so I can build it up. And I like that I've done it over time. You know, I did the pencil sketch the other day over the weekend, and then I've come in now. I've got a little bit of time this afternoon to add to it. I think a lot of the time we're put off doing creative hobbies and stuff because we think it's going to take a lot of time and we can get a bit intimidated. So I've kept this really small and really achievable. And watching Rosie class has made me feel really inspired. She's such a lovely, warm teacher and made it all sound very doable. And I love that it's Skillshare's mission to encourage us to view our creativity as a practice, as something that we can work on over time, and something that can be just for us and just for our own interests and self-care. And there's so many wonderful classes on Skillshare. Obviously it's not just watercolour painting, there's loads of different arts and crafts classes on there. It's absolutely packed full of those. And it also ranges to things like marketing, creative writing, photography, and even personal development. I know a lot of you guys now use Skillshare and love it as much as I do, so if you would like to check out Rosie's classes or anything else on Skillshare, then the first 500 people to click on the link in my description can get a 1 month free trial with Skillshare. Thank you so much to Skillshare for continuing to support my channel. It's very much appreciated. And I'm going to work away on this painting and make sure that I show you how it turns out. So apologies I didn't vlog very much yesterday. I think I got a few shots of our dog walk because me and my partner went on a bit of a family dog walk and took Sky along with his mum's dogs, which was really nice. It was really like crisp and cold day yesterday, so we wanted to make the most of that, and we're trying to be more intentional about spending like quality time together. I don't know if it's the same with any of you. I think we've been together for over 6 years now, and although we cohabit in like a tiny home and see each other all the time, it's different I think to just seeing each other to spending quality time together. So we're trying to do, you know, date night like once a month, and you know, regular things in the week that we can do together. So anyway, we did that, and then I just worked. I was just like at my desk at my laptop most of the day, so there wasn't really much interesting stuff going on. But it's Friday today and I'm about to make a new lunch that I thought I'd share with you. I've not tried it before. I got it from the, what are they called, Lazy Cat Kitchen. Yeah, it's like a Greek chickpea on toast, which I think she suggests as like a breakfast, but I'm actually going to have it for lunch. I'm more of a sweet breakfast person in the sense that I was basically just porridge and then I suppose pancakes if I'm having a treat. But I thought this would be quite quick to like put together, and I'm also conscious of trying to continue to get a good amount of protein in my diet, and sometimes my lunches fall off. I do soup a lot of the time, and a lot of the time I do have like lentils and stuff in there, but sometimes I don't. And I am quite an active person, so it's something I have to be mindful of because I do work out, you know, I do HIIT workouts 5 times a week, I walk daily, and I do yoga, so I just need to make sure that I'm looking after myself and getting enough protein. So really simple recipe. She basically says you want 3 shallots, although of course you could just use an onion or half an onion or something, and then a couple of decent sized cloves of garlic, and then it's basically just
once you fried that off and added some spices, she actually suggests plum tomatoes. I've just got chopped, so I'm just going to use that. Some chopped tomatoes, and I think it would be about roughly a can of chickpeas. I'd probably just put the whole can in because it's easier just to use them all up. And then you basically, I think, add maybe a little bit of water and just cook it off so it's like thickens up. And then she suggests garnishing it, I think, with some fresh herbs, which I don't have, but with olives. And again, I think hers are black olives, but I've only got green because I don't really like black olives. So I'm roughly doing this recipe. I always do that. I adapt recipes either to just what I have or what I enjoy. I have my apron on because I'm wearing white and I don't want to splash tomatoes all down me, but I'm gonna put this together now, and yeah, I'm really excited to try out a new recipe.